So here's what we're looking at in your swing. I'm going to bring this back down. We're going to play this all the way over again so you can kind of see what we're looking at here. So we've talked about this before. You hit the ball very solid. You kind of sweep the ball a little bit off the ground, not a whole lot of divot. And I think that we've got a little bit too much curve to the ball. And I think the curve to the ball is what's kind of, call it holding us back. So let's talk about some things that we've been looking at here. The three things that we've kind of talked about over the session. So the first thing is that we're going to see here that kind of like here's your shoulder, right? So this is kind of a straight line straight down from your shoulder. And what we want to see first of all is that as you're taking the club back, or taking your arms back, sorry, that your arms are working inward on this direction from where they started. So we can see them right here. I'll actually make a bit of a better line here and say, okay, like I don't want them to go out into this red line. They got to move back and away from you. So we can see here that when the right arm moves out a little bit, we've got the arms move out, and what happens is the club head gets a little bit too far back here behind you. But if I were to stop it right about here and match it up with the same end, or the same look on this side of things, where your arms get to about just below where the gray meets the black on your shirt, right about there, that's where your club's even with the ground. That's where the club head is somewhere around here, even with the ground, okay? However, what we're noticing is that there's no leverage to the club here, or call it wrist hinge. We've got your arm here, we've got the club sticking out this way, and we want to try and get that club more upward or more hinged at this stage of the game. So that was the first thing we looked at. We tried to feel as though that the arms worked their way in, that they felt as though that they went kind of back in and around kind of toward, this line back here on your heel line, bringing your arms in, and at the same time trying to feel like your thumbs point up to the sky. And we talked about the rhythm of this, that when you make a mechanical change, if you try to do it at the same speed that you're used to, you're not really making the change. So we have to make the mechanical change of arms in a little touch more with the club, a little more vertical. We're going to try to get that to happen a little bit slower, a little more dramatic, and I'm hoping that you feel that maybe the club's a little heavier as you do it. That's the first piece in the takeaway, which I wanted you to do. The second piece, which we are going to go all the way through into the finish to talk about the second piece, because it's the next piece that you can think about, is that when we get to the finished position of your swing, or somewhere toward this spot here, we talked about trying to get you to feel as though that you were as tall up this line as you could. So I like the fact that you're forward, right? If this was the center of your stance, you've moved forward, that's great, but I'd like to see if this can move a little more forward. Might feel as though that you arch a touch more back this way as a result, and try to feel as though that, you've moved the back of you right here away from this red line, that you've created some space. And if you've done that, then I feel as though that you're going to be able to get a bit of a taller finish, and the ball is going to fly a little bit on a straighter line. So we've got the takeaway part, and we've got this tall finish part. Now, the third piece was something in the middle. And this was what you mentioned right off the bat in our first step, that people that play with you a lot actually tell you that you have call it a dip, that you dip down into your swing. Well, we've worked on that a little bit, and I think that you've done a really good job at reducing that. One of the ways that you reduced it a lot was that you got really, really low, and you basically, this part of you went really, really far down and never came back up again. So what we've been working on from there is trying to feel as though that you can stay on this back foot here a touch longer in your downswing, right? Trying to keep that foot down and have the action of your foot be pushing down so that it can push up a little bit sooner and get you into that step 2 finish. But right here, I really want to try and feel as though that you're using that foot to push your hip up, but also push your hip forward. If we can get those two things to happen on the downswing, we're going to start to really stabilize what's going on with your swing. But we can see that through here, as you start your downswing, your left knee as a lefty. Your trail knee here starts to move forward into the other one, and we get a little bit of an imbalance. We've got your lower body kind of structured right here, and if I used a different color to show your upper body over here, the middle of the upper body's over here, the middle of the lower body's over here, and we just get a little bit too much of what we could refer as a tilt to the side or away from the ball. And this is happening a little bit too much simply because this has caved or collapsed just ever so slightly. So if we could feel as though that the last step, the long-term progress, was feeling that we could push the hip upwards, but not only upwards, that we also push it forward a little bit in that direction, you're going to end up standing just a little more taller at the finish, but also be able to stay a little bit taller at the setup, or in the downswing. But I think that overall, the moves that we've made over the past, call it 4 or 5 lessons. I mean, if I put this dot right here on your temple as you start to swing, you stay pretty still through the shot, where before there was a lot of movement. There was a lot of backup. So this video kind of shows our progression, that what we've done and how well we've done it. There's your head there. Not a lot of backup into it. A little bit, but not a lot. We had a lot more before. So we're working on trying to feel as though that you can, first of all, in step 1, leverage your golf club better. So arm goes in, shoulder might feel like it goes down a little bit to try and steepen this shoulder line. I'd like to see that the shoulder line got down a little bit more. That's going to help your arm come in a little bit more. And then from there, we get the thumbs up to steepen the shaft a little bit. If we can get that motion to happen on the way back, and we start using this left foot as more of a leverage to push you forward, I think that's going to help you get into your finish, and it's going to balance everything off. So I think that's the stage that we're at, and I would assume 2 good weeks of practice with maybe 4 practice sessions of an hour working on this. Working on the first one might be with mid iron, and work your way up to your long irons and your driver toward the 4th one. But I think that right now, look for the reps of this, trying to get in the how many can you do, and emphasize it and exaggerate it a little bit each time. It should be a little bit of exaggeration each time, but don't try and revert back to analysis. We've got the analysis. Let's do the do and go ahead and push forward. So enjoy your practice. Keep me forward and send me video.